Bismillah. Alhamdulillah. So I arrived in Mauritania, mashallah. And I want to explain why exactly, I left Turkiye and came here. And to understand first and foremost why I'm in Turkiye. So in order to understand all of this, I'm going to explain exactly, how I got to where I am. And this starts off about 11 years ago when I became Muslim, alhamdulillah. And when I became Muslim, it didn't make sense to me to do anything other than seek knowledge, to dedicate my life to learning about the deen, because when you come from the dhulumat, the darkness of kufr, and you taste the sweetness of iman, there's no other logical step except to, take the steps to learn this deen and to implement it. So, alhamdulillah, when I became Muslim, I met a group of brothers who were upon talab al-ilm, who were upon seeking ilm, and were guiding me in the right direction. And one of the first places I wanted to go and that I heard about was Damaj. And this was the time of the second hisar of Damaj, where the Houthis were going and surrounding, the markaz, and the students weren't able to leave. And I remember going to a dars in Brooklyn every single day and just waiting for the updates from the sheikh about what's happening in Damaj, and so that I can take the steps to go. And subhanallah, as time went on, they ended up, the Tullab ended up having to leave Damaj, and it didn't become possible for me to go there anymore. So I started to think, what's the next possible or the next best place I can go? And from what I was hearing at the time is the Islamic universities in Saudi were the next best places where I could go to seek knowledge. So alhamdulillah, I went and I made Umrah and I applied for the University of Medina. And there was a brother, he took me for my interview, for my muqabala. And I also applied for another university in Jeddah called Imam Malik Abdul Aziz or something like this. And I wanted to apply to Imam Muhammad ibn Saud in Riyadh, but at the time, if you go on a Umrah visa, you're not able to go to Riyadh, and they didn't have an online system to process applications, so I never ended up applying. So I go and I apply, and I'm waiting for my acceptance. And as I'm waiting, I want to get married, and alhamdulillah, I went and took the steps to get married. And I didn't want to just wait on the university. I wanted to take steps to go seek knowledge. So I was planning with my wife to go to Egypt. And I remember as I was in London, which is where I got married, I went to a muhadara where Sheikh Salih al-Suhaimi came to London, and there was a muhadara by another sheikh called Haytham Sarhan in London. And I remember going there, and this was my first exposure to, ulama and mashaykh, and I was just making dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it easy on me to go meet them and to go be able to benefit. So I went to the muhadara by Sheikh Haytham Sarhan, which was in London, and there was going to be another muhadara by Sheikh Suhaimi in either it was Birmingham or it was Manchester. I think it was Birmingham. And subhanallah, I wasn't able to make it to Birmingham, and I felt a qalaq, I felt like something in my heart, which was a sadness and an upsetness about why am I being kept from the ulama? What did I do to that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not making it easy for me to go. And I remember, subhanallah, feeling so bad and going home, and I was going to make tawbah that night to figure out why am I being kept from the ulama, because I couldn't find a way to go get to Birmingham because it was too much money, and for me at the time, I just got married, and I didn't have a ride or a place to stay. So subhanallah, when I got home, I got a bunch of messages that I got accepted to a university. And I thought it was the University of Medina because that's basically the only university I applied to besides the one in Jeddah. But people were telling me, no, you got accepted to Imam Muhammad ibn Saud. the acceptance letter came out, and it didn't make sense to me because I never applied there. And still to this day, I don't know exactly what happened, how I got accepted. قدر الله ما شاء فعل. My best guess is that the University of Medina went and forwarded my application for one reason or another. But, alhamdulillah, when I found this out, I went back to America to get prepared to go to the university. And alhamdulillah, I got there after a couple months, and I started to study in the Arabic Institute. And, alhamdulillah, I benefited and I was able to learn Al-Arabiya, but I wanted to really take things to the next level in my talab al-ilm. That's when I would be going back and forth between Saudi, and then I'd have a break and I go to Egypt and I studied more. And I started noticing that the studies were way more efficient in Egypt in terms of the Arabic language, in terms of the Qur'an. And I started to notice a lot of the problems in the universities in Saudi, such as inefficiencies in terms of the structure in the classroom, in terms of some of the learning, in terms of the manhajiyya, the way of seeking knowledge. And when I started to read more about manhajiyya to talab al-ilm, the ways to seek knowledge, I started to realize that the university was not my best way and my best path forward in order to go about seeking knowledge. So, alhamdulillah, I benefited and I learned Al-Arabiya, and I spent time going back and forth between Egypt and Saudi. But I noticed that a lot of students were trying to form their own paths of talab al-ilm, were picking the durus that they go to, during the week, were saying, I'm going to go to this usul dars, this fiqh dars, this mustalah hadith dars. And, some of them were only once a week. Some of them were books that they should be studying later on. There was no tadarruj, there was no progressing from one book to another. It was really, like a fawda, a mess. And it didn't seem optimal for me, if I was going to reach my goals of talab al-ilm and mastering the Islamic sciences, to continue on this path. So, I was going through and learning a lot along the way. One of my goals were to memorize the Qur'an, and subhanallah, during this whole journey of studying in Saudi, going back and forth to Egypt, taking advice from some people on what to do, and other people giving you other advice, and I learned a lot along this process. But and I think what I learned allowed me to create the systems that I have in place now and really gain clarity on what my goals are and the way I'm going to accomplish them. But it was a learning process. It wasn't easy, and I made a lot of mistakes along the way. And one of the results of that is me not having completed my memorization of the Qur'an. So, subhanallah, that's, as we'll get to, one of the reasons why I came to Mauritania. And as I started learning about the university and that this isn't the path I want to continue on, I started to look for a more traditional path of seeking knowledge, where I could sit with the sheikh one-on-one, and really just do tadarruj and have the sheikh know where I am in my journey of seeking knowledge and guide me every step of the way. So that's when I started to do more research on the manhajiyya, the way to seek knowledge. And I learned one of the first steps you have to take as a talib al-ilm is to master the ulum al-ala, the sciences which are a means to an end. So you have the ulum al-ala, which are a means, such as nahu. You're learning nahu to understand the Qur'an. You're learning nahu to understand the sunnah. And then you have al-ulum al-ghaya, which are the ends. We are, learning these other science to facilitate the understanding and application of the ulum al-ghaya, the ends in and of themselves, which are the Qur'an, the sunnah, fiqh, aqidah. So I looked for one of the best places that I can go and learn these ulum, and I found that there were madaris, or different institutions in Turkiye, which were ran by the Akarad, the Kurds, mashallah. And they did a lot of progression in these ulum al-ala, in nahu, in sarf, in balagha, in usul al-fiqh. And the books that were being studied were, traditional books by Ibn Hisham, by Taftazani, and the likes of these, mashaykh. And when we were in Saudi, we were studying from things called mudhakkirat, which were, a lot of the times papers which were put together by students, which were just taken from here and there. And there was a lot of problems in terms of the way of seeking knowledge. So I found this place, I found this madrasa that I study in, and I decided to leave Egypt and go and study here. And when I was in Egypt, I finished about by that time 10 ajza, or 10 ajza, 10 juz of the Qur'an. And my niyyah was to go to Turkiye and continue and complete my hifd of the Qur'an as I continued in the manhaj, or the curriculum of the madrasa. But subhanAllah, by the time I got there, it took a lot of time, it took a lot of tarkeez and effort and focus to really master the curriculum. And it's been 5 years now, and I completed more than half of it, but I'm still not done. But I was only able to get, an additional 5 juz, and a lot of my other ajza and parts of the Qur'an that I memorized got weaker. And, I learned through this process, and it enabled me to go and make my systems better, and as I said, make my goals clear. But too much time has passed since I became Muslim where I haven't memorized the Qur'an, and this has always been one of my priorities. One of the most important things to me, to have, the ayat, to have the foundation of this deen in my heart. And so it became time to me where I said, I've studied a lot at the madrasa. I still have an intention to finish it, but I need to take a focused break where I just go and finish my Qur'an memorization once and for all. And that's, kind of how I ended up here in Mauritania. I, came together with some brothers, brother Muhammad al-Andalusi, hafidhahullah, and another brother Hanif. And mashallah, we decided that we're going to do 2 Qur'an sprints, which are like, we're going to come for 2 months at a time and really focus, alaykum salam wa rahmatullah, and really focus on the Qur'an, and kind of, some of the other aspects of life, such as working out, such as business, just do what is essential for maintenance, but make this, our full priority. So that's what we've been doing, and we're hoping to, finish the Qur'an. We're going to make 2 trips here to Mauritania. So this is the first trip, and we're going to stay for 2 months, inshallah. And the goal is to complete about 8 ajza, or 8 parts of the Qur'an. And then I go back to Turkiye, and I'm going to continue with just muraji'ah. So no hifd al-jadid, no new memorization. And really be able to maintain that while I continue the curriculum and my studying in the madrasa, and then come back here for a last time for 2 months again and finish the last 8 ajza of the Qur'an. So that's the goal, inshallah, and that's why I left Turkiye in order to come. And it's not that this can't be done in Turkiye, but when you come together with ikhwa, and you change your environment, and you come to a place where the culture is memorization, and the culture is the Qur'an, and you leave some of the daily obligations that you have every day just to come together for a shared goal and inspire and motivate each other. It becomes a lot easier. So alhamdulillah, this is where I'm going to be for the next 2 months, and I'm going to be sharing my journey along the way, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy. Anybody who has any questions about Mauritania, just comment in the comments below, and I'll try to get these questions answered and put a video out. If you have any questions in relation to hijrah, visas, talabul ilm here, or anything, just let me know. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.